Cargo shorts have belts built into them already. That's like I thought it would just have ties inside. Anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Cargo
all right,
shorts.
Let's get it on.
Let's do it.
You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
I'm kind of cracking up. It's funny because, when I look at myself as if I'm another person and just looking at that intro, I'm like, this guy is an absolute joker.
You're
and
having
I was
an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, I would, because what happened was I went to conventions are back and they're just awesome. And I went to a killer convention last week, RoofCon. And,
RoofCon?
Yeah, RoofCon. Isn't that cool? They have like SolarCon. I'm telling you, I'm going to put together DeejCon. I mean, it's just a good thing, but it's so cool. So all these people are like, independent business owners, and they're just, but you don't realize one of those in the home services field, pretty much any house you see needs a roof. I mean, it's like a prerequisite to call it a house. Right. So it has a roof. And so these guys, they start out putting on roofs. Next thing you know, they got 20, 30, $50 million companies, but they're still decent, good old roof guys. And so it's just so delicious to be around these people. And so you go there, and and we had a little booth, and so I'm behind a lot of people are behind the booth, and they're selling stuff and whatever. And for me, it's like showtime. And so I'm having the best time of my life. Here, let me tell you how to work a convention. What you do is, if it's like 3 days, the first day, no selling going on. Your job, day one of the convention, is to be memorable. So do whatever it takes just to be memorable. Then when you go out like the second day and you kind of know people, by the third day you're friends with everybody, you say, come over here, I got something for you. And then you're in the house, and then you do business with everybody. They work really well. And what's great about conventions like this, I don't need you to talk at all today, Chris Nolan. I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
Yes. What's great about these things is that the small business mindset of these entrepreneurs in a convention like this, just by their force of nature, innovate all the time. A certain marketing program works for about 6 months, then everybody does it, and then it doesn't work again. And so they change, they improvise, adapt, and overcome on the fly all the time. And it's always exciting. They have a dumpster. You know how you throw all the shingles on the ground?
Yeah.
They have a dumpster, and it's like a scissor lift. And so it goes right next to the roof. And so the roofers just don't have to throw it on the ground anymore, and it gets in the neighbors' yards and everything. They just shove it on the side, and then it goes down, and then they dump it out. Everything's so cool. And that's exactly why I thought that our next guest would be perfect for this show, because this guy lives on innovation, and he's not afraid to try new things. So there's two new things that are going on with him right now. One, he's leaving a job and going out in business on his own. And second, he's having his debut podcast right here, live with you and me on the Dan Jordan Live Show. So without any further ado, I got to bring to the forefront my new friend, Mr. Ryan Knights.
Woo!
That's what I'm talking about. You see that?
Yeah.
You know what I love about Ryan Knights? You would have expected it to be Ryan Knight, but he's too powerful. The man is plural. He goes Ryan Knights. You know, one night, it doesn't describe him well enough. He's that good. He's twice as good as you would think. So Ryan Knights, how's that for an intro?
That's a wonderful intro. I mean, the S is also because of all of this community. I mean, come on. I couldn't do any of this without people like you, people like Chris, all of us working together to think of what that next solution is.
There's no such thing as a one night stand. That's right. So
look at that.
This
You
is
know,
marketing.
just when you think your day can't get any better, Chris Stone comes up with a monster like that. So here's the thing, Ryan Knights. You said, you know, this is how it works. Nobody knows what's working yet. So why don't you give a quick synopsis of the magic that we will know of Ryan Knights?
Yeah. So innovating is what I love to do. Creating parts, creating something out of nothing, taking somebody's ideas and then transforming it into a product. So that's what I got to do with companies like Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, doing some of their high voltage wiring, doing all sorts of different things where we were doing things that haven't been done before, trying to make sure that these safety standards are up to what they need to be, making sure the parts are performing. And we had to define what was performing for those parts. And I see so many people out there, everybody, when I say I'm starting my business, I want to be able to help people's dreams come true. The second I say that, everybody's like, I have this idea that I've thought of for the last 5 years. And
look at that.
I've been thinking about it. And I think it's a good idea. I haven't seen it on the market. I've looked a little bit, but I just don't know where to start.
So I got to ask you, you know, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody's got one with all that. And so how do you help people, or well, actually with Tesla or with these big companies that you worked with, how do they suss out, how do they kind of, qualify something that be worthwhile in investing in or not?
Yeah, I mean, for them, building their vehicle and having those different things, they really have these standards that they need to adhere to and come up with to be able to be successful. I think a lot of vetting a product, there's a lot of different things with like product management where you can start looking at the market, see what's out there. And the way that I think of everything is feature and function based. So I really want to make something that you can define as these set features and has this function in the end of what you're looking for. And when you think of things that way, a part doesn't just have to be a single part with a single function. You can add these little features to be able to really build it into an entire product line, an entire marketing piece. So getting to like vetting that idea, I think a lot of it is doing some market tests. Being able to quickly get a design, put it together, show it in front of some people, and see what happens. So in the end, it's not as expensive as you think. With the additive manufacturing that we have nowadays and the gig economy where you can hire someone like me to be able to do your CAD, print it on my printer back here, and just be able to get you a product quickly for relatively low cost. Even if your product didn't take off, now you have this little piece of you that's with you, this little piece of this idea that you're carrying around that's real. And you never know when it could take off because sometimes timing is everything.
How the heck did this happen, Chris Stone?
I don't know.
We found an engineer. I know we found an engineer with a personality. I mean, this is insanity.
I would imagine, Ryan Knights, that we always talk about, and it sounds like Dan introduced you as someone who's leaving a job and going into business for yourself. I would imagine this has to be incredibly rewarding for someone like yourself that can say, hey, listen, this person has a real idea, a really good idea. It just needs me. I just need to fill in the cracks here to be able to bring that idea to fruition. What are some examples of good ideas that you've been a part of?
Yeah, I'll have to try to think as to what I can and can't share because we've worked with some of those big EV players, and they have some patents around different things, but a
Mm.
lot of your good ideas are really simple ones. So one that you see on the site, you actually see it in the YouTube short that I have as well. It's a little cup holder. So you can see back here, this purple cup holder that we have. And my wife was walking around with her Stanley cup all the time. And the current cup holder that was on the Graco stroller just didn't fit it the size of the cup today. And so she needed something that was more robust so she didn't have to put this cup on the ground, pick it up. And so this was something to me that I was able to break into the features in my head of having a place for the handle, having it deep set enough to be able to hold, and then on top of that, having a clipping mechanism to get it onto the stroller. And so to me, that was a good idea because I took an issue that my wife was having and was able to solve it. And I mean, happy wife, happy life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that is something to take into consideration, not just in making products like this, but just in business in general,
Right.
or in your processes in general. People are exceptionally good at workarounds. And so if this doesn't work, I'll figure out a way. If this wire doesn't work, I'll make an adapter. I'll have an adapter and I'll do something. And pretty soon you're like this, but you're getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
You're figuring out a way to get it done. And so that extra step of thinking, oh, maybe I can create something to alleviate that. That's an actual skill. That's not something that people, because it's working. I don't upset the apple cart. So your skill, are you able to see confusion and make it unconfusing? Or are you pretty much, hey, dude, I want this, and then you make it?
Yeah, so I'm really good with end-to-end development as a whole. And why I say that is because a lot of people, like even their idea, they have this idea and they might think like, oh, I should patent this idea. But like a lot of people don't understand, you don't just patent an idea. You've got to have these features and functionality and pieces together. And a lot of the industry is so service-based that I almost feel like people get taken advantage of sometimes. So people, if you're like, hey, I want to patent a product, a lawyer's like, yep, my services are this much an hour. If your product takes off, good. If it doesn't, also good. It doesn't matter in their eyes. So I'm helping look at the process as a whole, from the ideation to the sketching, the CAD development. And these are all different skills and programs that I'm able to use to take what's in your head and bring it into a physical product. So essentially, once I iterate through that CAD, then I'm working towards getting you a prototype, something in your hands that works, and something that you can check that functionality, check those features, and then you're like really set for a patent. You're like ready to go now. Like, okay, now we're at this good stage. And then when I go into this ramping up stage, I haven't just done the ideation. I haven't just done the CAD. I've done plastic injection mold tooling, metal stamping, working with designing these tools and making them efficient as possible, cheapest, things like that. A lot of people don't understand. There's even different levels of tooling. You've got your 3D prints, let's say, and then you've got like aluminum tooling where you're going to have a lower volume production, but they would be saleable parts in your material. And then you've got this high volume production that's steel. You're running millions of parts a year. And since there's those steps, it's really nice because you can give people this way of testing the waters, going through without, shooting for the moon and missing. So
Ryan Knights, Dan Jordan always gets on my case about using vernacular that doesn't work for third graders. Okay.
Oh, ideation.
When I send out a proposal to prospective client, prospect, whatever, and I use the word lower thirds or something like that, Dan will jump through the phone at me. And he'll be like, no one knows what a lower third is. I was like, everybody knows. He's like, no one knows. Right. So you just have to use and he'll kind of go to that. So this is what my thinking was. You start talking about this. It's like, I'm trying to simplify it in my mind, but then there's things like CAD and other these things. And I know for you, that's very elementary language. But I think for the folks, on this show and other shows, like, when we talk about, you know, CAD and STP and STEP and those things that are a part of your process,
Mhm.
in sort of layman's terms, we'll break it down in Doug layman's terms here. What does that stuff mean?
Yeah, the simplicity, and this is why I kind of have in the beginning a sketching phase. That's all it is. It's really just sketching and being able to make that sketch 3D. So it's just a tool to be able to draw what you're thinking. And so you could use a pen and paper, and that's the perfect way to get started. And all it does is it's taking some of that stuff and what you put on the pen and paper, assigning dimensions to it, and making it something that's in a 3D field on your computer. So it's just a tool, just like a pencil or anything else that you can use to kind of help you develop it. It's also what is used most often for your manufacturers and for your printing. So it's a really important step and really important tool, because in the day and age of computers doing everything, that's what the file is. So it's actually funny you say that. Somebody that we were talking with was talking about a PDF. And so when you think about a PDF is, this, everybody understands it's something that's not editable, that's coming from some sort of source of how you write. And what a step file is this solid file of your product, but it actually doesn't show you the full history and background of what's going on, but it's what you need to be able to start designing a mold around that, start designing tooling. And again, I may be going off the deep end with some of these terms, so I'm more than happy to clarify, because tooling and molding, and I talk about that a lot because plastic injection molding is what I built my career on. But it's really simple. It's just two halves of metal coming together and coming apart, and so it's just like if you were to mold the thing in cast. It's just like when you're playing with Play-Doh as a kid, to be able to form something and pour a piece in there and solidify it. So
yeah, I guess what this is above all else, this is a sales show.
yeah.
And so the idea is, I think, talking about CAD and CNC machines and tooling and all that is great when you're trying to build up your credibility and your knowledge with which that you can use it. But the car buying public,
They like to hear about Play-Doh.
Yes, but the car buying public wants to know that the cup fits in the cup holder.
Yeah,
with the handle right there.
You're right. Yeah,
that's it. And so we want to talk about the cup. So come with a problem. Come with a cup that doesn't fit in the holder. By the way, I think one of the greatest things is those innovation that you see. I'm blown away. Like earbuds type of thing. I love the idea that the things fit so perfectly inside there. I think that's so cool.
Almost like you can't lose them.
Yeah, and good luck with that.
Right.
Unless you wear them, you wear these things because you think they're on, and then you go to the bathroom, and then you're standing up, and one of them falls out. Yes, that's how you lose them.
We should listen. We're kind of glazing over this a little bit, Dan. Before we jump too far away from this, the video that we played of his wife and the cup holder. Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman has posted one YouTube short. Okay. So if you think like, you're just throwing stuff out into this digital ocean, never to be found, if you do it the right way, create some solution and post one short. So when we pre-show, he showed this to us because, I pulled up his YouTube channel and he was like, oh, by the way, I have this short, and I posted it yesterday. And it's got 2,000 views on it. And I'm like, really? Now it has 27. So during the course of the show, it gained another 600 views since we started this thing. And so this is one video, ladies and gentlemen, that has been posted. So we promised Ryan Knights that we would get more people subscribing to his YouTube channel. So there it is. It's Knights Engineering LLC on YouTube. And this thing is cooking with gas here. with his wife and the cup holder and the Stanley holder here. So go and subscribe like I am right now to
I like how I like how your wife does her little acting. Oh, she puts it in. She goes, look how easy it is.
The funniest thing about that too is that's the first time she ever put it on. I've always been the one putting it on, trialing it, doing all this. And I was like, well, I should film like me handing it to you and you putting it on. And she said afterwards, she was like, I'd never put this on before. I was a little worried that I was going to do it, but the first shot it worked. And
that's right.
That's what we're
shooting. With all the stuff on YouTube, I understand her being worried about that. What a nightmare that would have been if it fallen off. But by the way, it's funny because she was worried about that. That people would see it. Nobody would see it. You just wouldn't post it there. But people are afraid to put things up. I applaud your bravery for doing that and stepping out and doing that stuff. And I think that's real cool. And also the fact that you left your job. So tell us that story. I mean, I imagine you had a pretty comfortable job, unless you got canned. Did you get canned?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
I would say it was a pretty mutual thing. So we were working through a lot of different product problems that they were having. We were really transforming the business. That's what they're working on right now. And this is NAPA Auto Parts. And they're really doing a great job of bringing this older company into a new day and age. And so a lot of what they were doing with that had just a lot of growing pains. And being a large publicly traded company, they had a lot of very hard standards. And so it didn't feel like the right fit for me, being that I like to really go out there, innovate, try these new things. But, seeing the fruit of my labor, seeing the YouTube short and having it that's what gets me excited. And even you had talked about, Chris, of how I probably get excited solving people's issues. Honestly, I've had a lot of fun doing the sales, the marketing, like all of it's been really interesting. In my engineering mindset, I'm very data driven. And so, for instance, with that YouTube short, I went on YouTube first and I looked at people who had the highest shorts and I watched some interviews and they talked about their process of how they do it, what sort of segments they have, how to analyze your market and put it together. And I used data and learning that other people have been doing to just help drive myself, right? So I really like that constant learning and the piece of small business where, my business plan probably has shifted 3 or 4 times in the last month, but that's the beauty of it is I get to adapt and try new things and go for it or not.
I love that.
Now, that cup, was that for a client or is that just because of your wife?
Yeah, that was just for my wife. So currently I do have 3 or 4 clients. They're all under NDAs. So I can't share a lot of their work, which is understandable. So kind of talking about that business model is helping them to be able to get their product off the ground and really do them. But on the side of it, I want to help grow my own business and my own products.
Okay. Well, so growing your own products, those are your own ideas, Ben Franklin glasses and cups. Got it. But the
glasses are actually for a customer. So that's an interesting one. So as my sales pitch, I made the other YouTube video that you see to give some light to my process and work with this company called MC Specs. And so with working with them, I was able to give them a visual show of what I do, try to help them understand my process and where I can add value. And I won the contract from that. So now I'm currently contracted working with them. You can actually see over my shoulder here some noses, because that's what I'm looking at improving is the way that the glasses work. So they're this innovative design that has no arms on the glasses. So they free float to your face. They're beautiful for fashion. They're just a really cool look overall. And so I'm using a data-driven approach to create a test fixture and be able to test the product and get them something that has some improvements, which is cool because I can't say I've ever designed a test fixture that's based on a nose before.
That's cool. Well, so what if you run? Does it fall off your face when you run?
But that's the thing with data-driven decisions, you can kind of define what you need. So how do you define that your glasses stay on your face? right? You want them to be there, but you also
I
want
know,
them.
and also I don't want it does it on the side of your schnozzolium there.
Yeah.
And you know what a schnozzolium is? It's a final resting place for dead boogers. Okay. So, hey, Corey Knobloch
We
had
made it 24 minutes without a terrible joke. It was just we were that close, Ryan Knights.
Yeah.
That close.
Corey's right, by the way. You need to put that
Yeah.
on the in of link. Why don't we do it now? You can do it now. Get it on there. See what happens. Look at it. So you need to post it on LinkedIn. All different places. Every place leads back to Ryan Knights.
Yeah.
So what are we posting on LinkedIn that Corey's suggesting?
That
or
video.
the shorts?
Yeah.
The short itself.
The short.
Both of those are actually on my LinkedIn. They're on the Knights Engineering LLC LinkedIn. So
Corey, you need to connect.
Yeah.
Connect. Here we go. Let's
I tell you what, I'll connect and then I will forward it. So
look at that.
I guess I can do that. We're doing this right now while you talk.
I believe I have all of them on there. And LinkedIn is really where I got most of my start from a social media perspective. Because it's what I've used forever as a professional, business site. And so even, where you're saying take a leap, and I would definitely say that to people, start giving it a try and working towards things, because before yesterday, my YouTube and Instagram weren't even on my site. They weren't linked anywhere. In fact, I made the Instagram 2 days ago and I'm at 500 views on that video. And I posted the video last night, but I only made the Instagram 2 days ago. And I started, it was this thing of, why am I not using these tools, right? Like, this is what I do often to consume and understand and learn new things. Why not use them to gain an audience and show people that, hey, you can do it too. You can create a product with my help.
How old are you?
I am 30.
I mean, listen to this guy. You speak like the wisdom of Socrates here at 30 years old. This is just terrific. So I see that you have a baby carriage and a wife. I imagine there's a baby in there too?
There is a wonderful little baby girl. So I have a 20-month-old named Hope.
Oh my gosh, Hope. So a 20-month-old, that's almost 2 years. When you having another one?
I don't think there is another one for us. I think we're sticking with one. So
I said that once to another woman too, and the same thing. She goes, "I don't think you're allowed to ask me that." I think things have changed.
I wonder how many conversations ended like that for you, Dan.
I mean, I can see why, because some of my background is we actually did lose twins, and had some different troubles there, and so that's a big part of for us, and even a big part of, it sounds weird, but me starting my own business, because I have more flexibility in my day to be able to help my daughter, be able to help my wife, and really be able to spend time with them. I was lucky to have a dad that really was just brilliant and always working hard and doing that. And he wasn't around a lot because of that. So he was constantly traveling, doing all this, really setting up a life for me and really doing it in his own way. But unfortunately, my dad passed away last year at 56. And looking back on it, all I wanted was more time with him. And so that's something that I keep in mind with everything that I do, is being able to spend that time with my daughter while I can.
Yeah,
Wow.
you are excellent.
Wise beyond your years, Ryan Knights. That's good stuff.
Well, thank you.
And that is, oh yeah, you know what? Barbara Streisand said that about Andre Agassi. I guess they had a little fling or something, and she said he's.
I think we lost Dan here for a second. I heard a siren in the distance, so hopefully that didn't knock out the internet where he's at. Like, I think it's incredible because a lot of people, you hear stories about people like your father, right? And the provider, right? That worked very hard and I'm sure it did as much as he could for you, but in the end, Do you want them there for the soccer matches? You want them there, you know, and maybe wasn't there as much, and you learned that, and so you're like, hey, maybe I can break apart of this cycle and continue to do some of the same things your dad did, which was to provide and do all of that, while, you know, being able to be there for your daughter, and your wife and your family. Because in the end, it's like, you know, no one's gonna wish they'd worked more.
Yeah.
They're just gonna wish that they had, you know, done that with family. I think that's great. It's great to hear. Like I said, wise beyond your years. Speaking of wise beyond your years, Dan
Wise
Jordan,
beyond your linear years. You got to add the word linear. Yeah, that's what
especially now we're talking to an engineer. Linear is
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
right.
So see if you can guess what happened to my computer.
Oh, you didn't plug it in.
I didn't plug it in. And so it's always the simplest thing that you forget. So do you have any stories like that, Ryan Knight? Everything relates. Where
The simplest thing.
where it's like tell me about a screw up. Tell me about something that messed up in a design
And name time.
that you
No,
didn't think about.
Yeah. So I've got one. It's a doozy. The auto industry can be a little bit crazy. So when I was working with one company, we were working on a product, a fuel door for an SUV for a large company, Ford and Lincoln. And they were looking at these vehicles. They had one of the VPs there, very high up person, and he was reviewing the vehicles for the first time. And his response was, why the F does this $100,000 vehicle fuel door look horrible? Who from this company is here right now to tell me why this fuel door looks so bad on my $100,000 vehicle?
Well, a fuel door is the door that covers the gas cap.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And so they were
called a fuel door.
A lot of them in the past have been metal, but they started using plastic. A lot of companies use plastic, and so they were trying to do it for one of their first times. And so it was wild because I was dumb enough to raise my hand, realizing that I probably shouldn't have before. And he called me over and he said, well, like, what's your explanation? And I had to explain to him, when we looked at the data, that in order to save cost, they wanted one fuel door to fit both vehicles. So that's what we did. However, the sheet metal on each vehicle is a little bit different. Now, I was new to the auto industry, and sheet metal is one thing you never blame because it's owned by the OEM. You could blame another supplier, your mom, yourself.
One second. Explain what an OEM is.
Okay, that's an original equipment manufacturer. So that means like
Got
Ford, Lincoln,
Yeah.
all of those. And the sheet metal is the outside of the vehicle, those panels that they all put together. So those panels are made by a Ford, by a GM, by whoever. And so I was essentially blaming themselves, which is, even if it was their fault, it's your job to fix it, not theirs. And so sure enough, he called over the manager of the sheet metal team, which you've got to think, this is my like second engineering job. I'm this like 20-something kid. And these are like, he's like pulling over, like a manager's like 10 levels above me. Like these are people that I would never interact with on a daily. And the manager said, yes, they are different significantly between the two. And the entire tone changed. And he still wanted to get in my brain. He said, I still think it's this effing guy's fault, but you do what you can to help him fix it. And we did end up making adjustments to the sheet metal. So now that
you were the effing guy?
I was the effing guy. I was the effing supplier. Yes. So.
I still think it's his fault, but you guys got to figure it out. I love it.
Yeah,
our friend Corey,
cool.
who, you know, apparently he wanted to jump in on the bad jokes. I don't know the answer to this, but wants to know what the slipperiest place in the world is. Do you know the answer to that? Anyone?
I mean, I love Slippery Rock here in Georgia.
Slippery Rock.
We used to go there as kids. I don't even remember where it is. It's somewhere up in North Georgia, and it's just like you would ride it like a slide. And it's like this little layer of moss that just sits on top, and you just, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Bigfoot Museum?
I have
in
not.
North. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Maybe
Funny
the
thing-
Bigfoot Museum is the slipperiest place in the world, but Corey does have a question that is pertinent to the conversation. So let's do that. What are the parameters of you will of whether you'll work on a project or not? You know, how do you know whether you're going to take on a project or not?
That's a great question. So right now, in this kind of growth and getting new people phase, I look at it more as different levels. It's not something I necessarily say no to,
Mhm.
but I like to give really clear deliverables. And why I say that is because there's I know that a lot of people have a hard time getting their idea to a product because of money. And so when I'm looking at a product and evaluating it for myself, I think about where I can add value for that person. That's first and foremost. If it's something that's a material I don't know as well, or if it's something that I'm like, hey, this isn't my expertise. Like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I would be very upfront with that and letting know like so materials is a big one and in understanding what sort of assembly they're looking at. But what I want to grow to be is not just work for them from like an hourly basis of being able to contract me as an engineer and they own things, but actually moving to a level of owning things together where I can own some of the IP, they can own some of the IP, and then we can kind of have these different levels of what those payment terms are. We might have like, hey, I have a discounted rate for you, but I own 10% of the idea, I'll be on the patent, so on and so forth, so that I can help invest with them.
Sure.
So it's hard to say specific parameters, but I would say the biggest are making sure that they're within my expertise of what I've learned in plastic injection molding.
So when you do that, you got skin in the game, right? So whoever
Yes.
you're working with is going to be like, well, this is going to result in more or less money for him as well, right? So it's not necessarily a bad idea, especially if somebody has like a really good idea. So Corey, I hope that helps. But Corey, we do have an answer for this incredible joke that Corey has shared with us this on Dan Jordan Live. What is the slipperiest place in the world? It is not Slippery Rock. It is Greece.
Greece. Yeah. Lithium grease. Hey, so lithium grease, you seem like an interesting, guy to hang around with. You're just an idea guy. Are there any groups like that? Just kind of like idea groups that people hang around and just kind of kibitz together and come up with something cooking. Kibitz is a Yiddish word for just shooting the grease,
chewing the fat.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm a part
thank you. By the way, I love you. I did
Finally.
I went to the convention that had the guy for the 5 love languages, and apparently mine is like affirmations. So, tell me and actually like saying that's a great question. You just called me smart. And so like, I really respond to that. So now you know how to work me.
Okay, for sure. I mean, I was also admiring your shirt, the way that it's just the fish is there. I mean, everything, Dan, is just it's wonderful how you put this together. I mean,
it's
Chris,
funny because even
this is beautiful.
By the way,
if that's your love language as
Oh, yeah.
well, the
Stop.
quality and put together of this is great.
well, what's your wife's love language, by the way? I'm sure you read that book. Did you read the book?
Man, that's a good question. I think I should probably know that better.
Yeah, go on the website and you can take the test together. It's good.
Cup holders is her love language. So Rachel Stagg wants to know, what's the largest product that you can create through 3D printing? That's an excellent question. I don't even know that.
Yeah,
that is. And here's something cool, because I saw an R2D2 behind you, Chris.
Yes.
So this Mandalorian helmet is actually the maximum size here that I can get to. Now, that doesn't mean that this is the minimum size that I could do. The reason being is I can create different interlocking features to be able to create larger products. But this is about the size of my print bed. And as you can see,
yes,
it's a good size. So Great
Have you,
question from Rachel.
Chris? Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Chris Stone, have you ever had an invention? Like, have you had an idea? I had one years ago that I made, but do you have anything?
Do I have anything that I could share right
Do
now?
you have any? No, do you have
You
any
know, Dan, I've
ideas?
signed a few NDAs in my time. I can't really share
Yeah.
on the show today my ideas, but
I
you know,
made-
Ryan
NDA,
Knights, you and I should get together and do that. Listen, I think we all have ideas. Most of the time, what's most disappointing is I will see something that is an idea that has come to fruition, that is being sold on Amazon, or I'm seeing an ad on Instagram for, and I'll go, I thought of that. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the worst. It's like, there's so many of these things where you have this idea and then there's a breakdown. You don't have a Ryan Knights.
That's
gonna be
it.
able
Now
to
we have a
take it.
Ryan Knights. Everybody needs a Ryan Knights.
That's it.
All right.
Well,
I interrupted you about the other question that was so good about the idea groups. But so finish what you were saying, and then when you get around to it.
Well, I was gonna say, Chris, that's a great piece though, because just because your idea is out there doesn't mean it can't be better. It doesn't mean you can't add features or functionality.
Nice.
So
There were cell
that's-
phones before this.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a big key too, because a lot of people, that's where they give up. They're like, oh, I had this idea, and then they're like, oh, I see like somebody tried it once and it looks like it sold somewhere. But that doesn't mean that they're doing great in sales. It doesn't mean that it's the best product to fix your issue.
Well, it's like the cup holder, right? Cup holders have existed for years, but now you've created something that is, they're creating different sized cups and different places to put them. And so it's like, somebody came up with the cup holder, but it's not the same thing that you just did. So,
So
great idea.
When I got married, so I'm Jewish, my wife is Christian. So the first time we had a Christmas tree the first year. And I learned about the whole Christmas tree thing. First of all, so we're putting it up, and then you got to water it all the time and it runs out and you got to keep watering. And then, and so I'm like, climbing under, and I'm getting all, and then the little thorny things are falling on me, and they're all
The
over
menorah is a lot less trouble.
Right. And so I said,
really
we need a big funnel. And so I said, so why don't we get a funnel with a tube and make it look like a bell, like a Christmas bell? So that was my invention. I was going to make a Christmas bell, and it's really a funnel, and you turn it like this and you put the water in it. And so I made one, just a little fool around thing that I did. I had the tube, but the problem was I couldn't tell how much water I was putting in it. So it spilled all over the place. So I'm sure that I probably could have thought of an answer to that, but I never did. But that was my, so can you make me a bell funnel for a Christmas tree?
I 100% can. And I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it, where I'm not sure when you created this, but the way that manufacturing has changed so much with 3D printing and stuff, it really is amazing that I can produce things right here as your first iteration. So it's crazy, because the amount of time it takes to get from that idea to product is just so much shorter than it used to be, because you don't have that long lead time and you can look everything up on the internet.
Oh, I had another one. Here was another one of my ideas. I had a friend who he did body work on cars. And like when you take out screws, like for the fenders or whatever, there's a billion screws in a car that you're taking out and little stuff. Yeah. And you put them down and you could lose them. So I said, this is what you need to make. Like a little thing like this, but it looks like a car. And so it's just like a flat car, but instead of having like the outside of the car, there's little compartments. So like the front fender, you put all the screws here. The back, you put all the screws here. And so it was a little like molded thing. He actually made a few of those things. And it was very helpful because they didn't lose stuff. That was a good idea, huh?
That's a great idea. And here, even like when you were talking about that, I was like, wow, that's a great idea. You can definitely use that to like have your different areas and stuff. And then now with how quick you can do things, what if it was your car? What if now, instead of just having a generic car, what if you had one tailored? You had a Suburban, or you had a BMW or whatever you wanted, and it was personalized to maybe the color you wanted or something like that. Because with these printers nowadays, you can print all these different colors. You can do it so quickly. It's kind of cool of how you can take even that idea and continue to improve on it, right? Just like we do with everything.
Yeah, look at that. You're already improving on my idea that I had in 1981.
Our friend Corey.
If only I was around back then to help you.
So that's it. So now I got a guy. So when I have a crazy idea, I just call Ryan Knights.
Look out, Ryan Knights. Woo,
Tell me if it has legs or not, and then we go ahead and do it. Because every things are amazing. Like this chair, I have a thing with chairs that I don't like when they flop back like that. So each chair has like a little knob on it. I just found out this knob. I would always switch chairs. This one goes back, but there's a little knob on it that stops it from doing it. I'm like, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? It's so much easier.
Good job
for
of marketing their knobs. Clearly,
yeah, that's right. It's
a marketing problem.
I tend to find things more amazing. Like I don't very quickly go, oh yeah, that's been around for a while. It's not a big deal. I'm still amazed, that my windshield wipers can suspend and just they kind of know when the rain comes and then they turn on when the rain. I mean, that's just freakishly.
We take a lot for granted. We absolutely take a lot for granted. There's that whole Louis C.K. stand-up thing where he's like, you're on the plane and you're logged into Wi-Fi, right? And the guy next to me is losing his mind because the Wi-Fi is not fast enough for him to get whatever he's getting. And he's like, you're in a metal tube 40,000 feet in the air. Chill out. It's like we've come all this way and sort of like, we appreciate people like Ryan Knights who understand how to engineer all of those things that we've been taking for granted for our whole lives.
Yeah. I think it's great. So who's a good, I'm trying to think of who's a good customer for you. When should somebody call you? When should somebody say, hey, I need the Knights?
Yeah, I mean, I love to be in as early as possible because it really helps to get that brainstorming and feature development there. I'm really trying to focus on small companies like probably under 50 employees in the consumer product space. And the reason for that is because of my knowledge in injection molding and what I've been able to do. I approach everything in my business just like it's a Fortune 500 company because that's what I'm so used to working with. So I have my standard sales pitch decks and proposals and things like that. And I'm taking the knowledge and processes from those companies and wanting to use it for small businesses. So doing small business myself, I really want to help people that are in that small business space, especially small consumer products, because I think we can get their product to market extremely quick because of the different programs I use and the knowledge that I have to be able to utilize those to get something to you quickly. And with speed of everything, it just helps cut down on cost as well. So, I mean, anybody with a consumer product idea, I would welcome them to email me. Specifically, I work a lot in plastic, but if you come to me and you're like, hey, I have this idea, I have this CAD, I already did some of my preliminary work. I love that too, because you can use me for however you need, just like what you're showing. I can do some testing. A lot. That's something that's so missed in people that are not engineers. They think, oh, this product has to work. But defining what work means a lot. So for instance, I have a force gauge and that reads how hard you push on something, how hard you pull on something. And that helps give a data-driven data point to decide what working is for your product. So you might say, hey, I need to install this into a hole. But people are going to install it with their thumb a lot. So I want it to be under 45 newtons so that their thumb isn't getting tired. That's something that you can then define and utilize those tools to really build the function that you want.
So have you ever had a fig Newton? Have you ever put your thumb in a fig Newton? All right. So fig Newton. So here's one. My son has a junk removal business, has a bunch of trailers and all that stuff. Every single trailer that you see on the street, one of the rear lights is broken. It's just, you're always running into, it's always breaking. And so we manufactured a little metal piece, to put on the outside of it, whatever, which has worked well. It doesn't break anymore, every single one. But there's an item right there. I'd like to do it in plastic because the metal was too expensive. And if you could put the right fig Newton on it, that it doesn't break, it would be good.
Yeah.
Is that something that you could work with?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because see, having it too and understanding the function of trying to protect something, there is such a myriad of plastic out there now. I mean, you've got things that are, I won't go, I'll try to keep it more third grade, but there's like a material called PEEK, P-A-E-K, and it is like, it's this really high temperature. It can withstand a lot of things. It's like a great material. Now, it's going to be more expensive, so you've always got to figure out where the value is, but you can do just about anything with plastic. One interesting thing is this helmet is actually printed in a PLA that has a little bit of carbon fiber strand in it to give it just a little bit extra strength to it. And picking a material for a product is hard. A lot of people take it for granted that, you know, you're like, oh, I could just use a normal plastic, but there's so many plastics, and it matters if you have bendable features, if you want it to be brittle, and something else that's done kind of in an engineering sense is thinking about how you want the part to fail. So a good way of looking at that is your car, right? With your car in crumple zones, you want your car to absorb that shock and move it away from the passengers, right? And so it's thinking about when it does fail, how do we want it to fail?
That's great. Ryan Knights, you've been a super guest. I mean, it's like, hey, Chris Stone, welcome to the zone, the crumple zone.
As long as it's not the Fig Newton zone, I'm hungry now.
Well, how hard? I don't know. You said things are hard, but how hard is it? Like, what's a hard Newton as opposed to a little Newton? Like, what's a soft? What's something? At what point in newtons does something transfer from soft to hard?
Rubber. Let's call it that. That's the third grade level is rubber. A lot of people
how many newtons? How many newtons is rubber?
So I see it's more of, you would go into like tensile strength of the material and durometer, and the durometer is a way of saying how soft the material is.
All
we
right.
went from
so
third
then what
grade to like,
says?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Durometer.
It's
Okay,
durometer.
I can.
Listen,
So
sometimes we just can't, like, we can't make someone dumber. It's just
I want to get a ruler. I want to get a ruler that say, you know, that's like 4,000 newtons. Is that hard? Like, what's the?
It depends on the size.
So yes, 40 newtons, you could sit there and push with your thumb and you would be okay. So a standard automotive fastener, you would be able to push in with 45 newtons, a standard automotive fir tree specifically. The retention, the force to pull that out, is typically between 150 and 200 newtons. So that would be the amount of force to pull it out. So you want it to be easier to go in, a little bit tougher to go out, right? So it doesn't just fall out. If you were talking about dropping a pallet onto a bed, it would be like
a bowling ball, onto a bed.
Yeah, that, I mean, so the way that newtons is it's a matter of force, which is kilograms per meter squared. So it's yeah.
You definitely need a diathermeter for that one. I'm just making up words. All right. So, Ryan, you have been just absolutely delightful. This is
and
great.
Patient. If
you could give me a final, a final little run through of why somebody should call you and work with you. And that's where they, knightsengineering.com. And you're pretty approachable. So send you an email. You'll do anything. And you said it wasn't, you'll offer ideas and you'll be truthful. So tell me, why should somebody work with you? And we'll be able to work with something there.
Yeah. I mean, the real value that I bring is engineering at its core, because it's something that I've done, being able to create drawings, create your product, create something that you can send to a manufacturer that can be sold. But some of the benefits, thank you so much for saying that I'm approachable. I love people. I love community and working with people. And I think that shines through in all of my work. I like to make sure I'm collaborating, make sure I'm meeting your expectations. I really bring the process to be something that we can all understand and work towards. And also be able to work with somebody who has knowledge in a field that is mass manufactured. So I'm taking what I can from my knowledge of making millions and millions of parts that go on vehicles and using those for your product. When I'm sitting there and designing, I'm not just putting together what you think. I'm thinking about, how is this tool going to open and close? What sort of actions are within it? All of these different things that are part of the manufacturing process that drive costs.
Well,
Boom.
that was just awesome. Boom. There you go. That's how you finish it.
Nailed
Now,
it.
by the way, Ryan Knight, I know this is your first podcast, but
Yeah.
in terms of production, Chris Stone, what do you think, huh? No, I'm asking you, what do you think about Chris Stone? Is he a monster or what?
I mean, like I said, I've never being on a podcast, especially something live, the way that it just grabs your attention, everything with the way that the movements are, the way the questions come in, it's great. I mean, I'm really loving it. And like I said, I love quality. I love high-end cameras, some nice microphones. Like I think all those toys are really fun, and the quality of all of this is just really great. And so I love it.
So would
Well,
you
it
give
is
it
your first
on
one. It can only go up from here. So
a scale of 1 to 5 fig Newtons? What would you give him?
5 big Newtons for sure.
5 Newtons. Take that, Polymer.
Chris Stone, that's awesome. Listen, we really appreciate you, Ryan. I mean, you are an absolute delight, and your family is beautiful, and your future is bright. And I wish nothing but good things to happen to you for the rest of your life. I want you to eat well, live long, and prosper. And for you people out there, everything is possible if you know the right people. He's one of them to know. Go get him today.
Go get them.